I would say 90% of my time right now is spent on the Integrated Test Center. It's sort of been a project with a lot of different partners. I've got National Rural Electric Co-ops here today, Tri-State's here today. I don't know if I saw anybody from Basin is here or not, but Rocky Mountain Power played a role. I won't go through all these things, Black Hills, but we're getting to the point where actually we have a pretty good plan and a strategy and enough of a project here where we're starting to roll this out. And so I wanted to take the opportunity to sort of update the group on the project, where we're at, where we're headed, where we're going, because as this thing moves along and people are talking more and more about it, there are some misconceptions out there. So we do have a logo. That actually felt like a big milestone that, hey, we actually got something here. So I don't think you can really start talking about the test center and why it's needed until you do a little bit of background. And trust me, this group knows more about transmission, than anybody, and far better than I am. But when you start talking about the complexity of how the grid works and why coal is important to it, you do need to provide a little bit of education, and it's hard, it's complex how this works. But the best analogy that I have ever heard was comparing the grid to a swimming pool. And the water is the electricity, and there are all these faucets turning on and off all the time, and that's what's adding electricity to the pool. Some are intermittent, like renewables. They're just on when the sun's shining, the wind's blowing, whatever. Baseload sources like coal, some natural gas, nuclear, that's baseload. And those faucets are on continuously or turn on or turn off when you want them to. But all at the same time, where you've got this electricity or water being added to the pool, you have water being removed. Factories, businesses, residential homes, individuals, all these things are removing water at different rates at different times based upon their need. Why is coal important to the grid? Well, the water needs to stay above a certain level. Otherwise, the power goes off. And, that line moves up and down where that water level needs to be throughout the day. But the grid operators are really good at knowing, when they'll need the power. And they're adding and removing generation based upon those needs. For example, during the middle of the night, everybody's sleeping, not using a lot of power. But starting 5:30, 6 a.m., those power needs ramp up throughout the day, and those grid operators adjust accordingly. I heard a statistic, since we're a week and a half removed from the Super Bowl, that one of the biggest surges in power is right at the end of the first quarter going into halftime, when people get up, nuke something in the microwave, use the restroom, all those things. It's a huge demand on the grid, and they're used to it, and they plan accordingly. But it's really hard to add water to the pool when you don't know when part of the supply is going to be available. Is the wind blowing today? Is it not? And that is the complexity of adding renewables to the system. Base load makes it easy. And we can't predict when the wind's going to blow, the sun's going to shine. And so that's why coal is an important part of the mix and will be an important part of the mix moving forward, because you do need power when you need it. And we know coal is always available. Another side of this, and that's why the coal story is important to the grid as a whole, but we all know why coal is so important to the state of Wyoming. A lot of jobs, very large tax base. The state of Wyoming tied school construction funds to coal lease bonuses. All in all, there's about $1 billion annually in direct payments to Wyoming from the coal industry. And down below is a brand new school being constructed just on the northeast side of Cheyenne, and that was used with that coal bonus bid money. Why does Wyoming take the lead? Some people are like, well, the Department of Energy, the federal government should do this. Well, the federal government is not prioritizing coal research. And actually, in the president's budget that just came out, the administration is recommending restructuring any TL to take the in-house R&D programs away. I mean, they're I guess in my mind, they're abandoning coal R&D. But also with Wyoming stepping up and building the ITC, they're in a much stronger position to advocate for additional resources. It's like, hey, we're stepping up, we're putting our money where our mouth is, you should do the same. I wanted to show this graph here because, let's see if I got a line here. So here's, fossil energy, when you just talking coal, you're 40% of the entire electrical grid, and they're getting about $600 million a year. Well, renewable energy is getting over $2 billion. Well, in this president's budget, he's actually calling to reduce coal or fossil energy research and doubling renewable research to, over $4 billion. But kind of the devils are in the details here. $240 million of the president's budget, which is the request, is the $600,000 is actually reprogrammed money that came from the Clean Power Plan initiative. That's sort of a grant project money that's been there. Well, they just decided to slow that over. So in all reality, the federal government is going to spend about maybe $260 million on coal, new money. So what we can tell, even though it's a huge part of the electrical grid, the administration is not prioritizing it whatsoever, leaving a great opportunity, a great vacuum for the state to step up. What are the goals here? Well, the goal is to keep coal viable, an important part of the state's economy, while addressing societal concerns over carbon emissions. You can debate all you want. Climate change, is it happening? Isn't it happening? There's a broad, diverse set of, opinions on that. I'm not going to debate that, but there is a societal concern, and the ITC can step up and take part of that. Can we potentially take a liability, which is CO2, and turn it into an asset? And more than anything, stepping up and pointing out a problem without providing a solution, in my book, is called complaining. And so the ITC is Wyoming stepping up and being a leader on solutions. We all know technology works. We see it around us all the time. Just look at data storage and how far we've come in just the last decade with technology that we use every day. Look at our cell phones. It started from being a device to make calls to videos and phones and music players and PDAs, and a lot of people don't even carry watches or wear watches anymore because they use their phone. So just think, it's all around us. Technology is continuing to adapt and evolve, and it works. The electrical industry has a great track record of successes with emissions controls. If you look at baseline from 1970, well, coal use increased over 150%. While the major pollutants decreased by almost 90%. That is success. That is a track record. And the same thing can happen with CO2, provided a reasonable time frame is developed and the resources are put into place. Which brings us to the Integrated Test Center. How did we get here? Well, 2 years ago, the legislature appropriated $15 million. With that authorization, ITC working group was put together. Mike Easley was a part of that, as well as Jeremiah Raymond from the governor's office, folks from the university, various industry partners. And so it was a group that came together to figure out, okay, how do we do this? What do we need to? What does the project look like? As a part of that, $15 million, we needed to find a private match. And Tri-State provided the original $5 million to give the go-ahead with this project. National Rural Electric Cooperatives are providing an additional $1 million to help with the operations and construction. Basin Electric is providing the host site. Rocky Mountain Power and Black Hills were part of the discussions. A lot of technical expertise within the state and these companies. And we were able to sign up XPRIZE as the first tenant of the facility. So with that in place, the governor felt like we have enough of a project, it's going to go, so gave the okay to go ahead and build it. What exactly is the ITC? I think some people think that it is a large laboratory facility, like NETL or School of Energy Resources, and it's not. It will be a very unique facility. There are only a handful of facilities in the world where you can test at a live, real-world coal plant. There will be the equivalent of 20 megawatts worth of flue gas diverted from the Dry Fork Station, and it's a very simple design, but the simplicity in the design allows for a lot of flexibility and scalability based upon the needs of the individual researchers. It is a network of piping that will divert the flue gas to where these to these modular research stations. There's two areas. We've got these kind of small test bays, and right over here is what it looks like right now. It's just kind of an open field. And these test bays will actually be like gravel pads. And the easiest way that I can describe it is it's a little bit of like an RV park. These apparatuses will be built off-site at the individual laboratories, companies, whatever, built in a modular form, brought in, hooked up to the utilities, the flue gas delivery system, whatever, run for a certain number of hours depending on the specifications within their study, unhooked, removed, and the next one can come in. But these small test bays is where the X Prize competition will take place. There's kind of a little bit of a misconception too that X Prize is an actual partner in the project itself. They are to a sense, but more than anything, the easiest way to describe them, they're a tenant. And they are currently running their Energy COSIA Carbon X Prize, and it kind of sort of a little bit of a statement here about what they're trying to do. But really what they want to do is look at, incentivize the technologies that can take the CO2 and through chemistry and chemical processes, transform CO2 into a marketable product such as carbon fiber, graphene, who knows what they'll come up with. But that is the X Prize component. In September, they announced the X Prize. In October, they signed an MOU with the Infrastructure Authority to be the first tenant to actually operate the coal portion of that prize at the ITC. But there are two tracks. There's a natural gas track, and that will be tested on natural gas-based flue gas up in Canada, and then the coal track, which will be at the ITC at Dry Fork Station. There's 3 rounds of the competition. There's technical papers that I believe they're open for submission right now. They will look at those, study the merits. Up to 15 teams could be moved on to the second round, which is the small-scale laboratory testing. $2.5 million will be distributed to up to 5 teams that pass that round, and then those 5 teams will come to the ITC starting in the fall of 2017 to do their testing. And the grand prize winner of that round of testing will be $7.5 million. At the conclusion of the X Prize competition in 2020, they will vacate the ITC, and that spot and those and the flue gas will be available to new testing or new testers. The large test bay is over to the south, and I should add kind of directionally, this is north over here, this is south, east, and west, but it's this little field over here. And that is a large test bay. The state of Wyoming owns that part of the facility. Well, we own the whole facility, I guess, with partnerships, but the ITC will have that available for testing immediately and have a lot more input as to what research actually takes place there. Here's kind of where we're at in the process. There's a lot of things we've done. There's a lot of things that are still yet to be done, but we're on track. As you can kind of see the last little bit here we are, we've got enough enough of the project developed where we're starting to roll things out. I just talked to some of our folks yesterday. Our website, if I just looked this morning, it's not live yet, but it should be within the next week. So you can go there, sign up for updates. There's a little bit of more information on what's going on as we develop a lot of the criteria with regards to who can test, the application process. This website is going to be really evolving. So if you are interested, I encourage you to continue to kind of follow and check up on that thing. The next major milestone moving forward is actually seeing physical transformation, construction on the site. And in coordination with a regularly scheduled maintenance shutdown that happens next month, Basin Electric is going to install the damper into the exhaust venting right now. And what this will do is the diverter. When they'll put it in now, they'll leave it wide open and it'll continue up the stack. But that piece of equipment does need to be installed while they are on a maintenance shutdown. This deadline here, this shutdown was really driving a lot of our deadlines because they only shut down once every 3 years. And it was, here's your window. If you don't hit it, we'll see you in 3 years. So things are moving fast. And so this part of the project is much further along than some of the other final engineering. But kind of some pictures here. Here's the whole power plant. Kind of zoom into the southeast corner where the ITC activities will actually take place. We zoom in a little bit more. Right here, this little square, you kind of see a little pipe. That's this pipe right here. Right in here is where the damper is going to go. It's kind of a schematic here of what it'll look like, some structural steel holding it up and where that'll go in. But that'll happen mid-March to the first week or so of April. And we're excited to actually break ground on that. There are a lot of steps that need to occur as we move forward with this thing. But a couple of the bigger things moving forward is, we're exploring opportunities to leverage some federal funds. The great thing about this project is we do have the funding in place and we're not chasing dollars to make it happen. But are there opportunities, are there DOE monies available that can help offset and, just leverage those dollars to do even more? We have reached out to the Department of Energy and hoping to have something set up with them fairly soon. Excuse me. We're beginning to open some dialogue with some international organizations to promote and advertise the Integrated Test Center. There's the International Carbon Capture Center Network, which Dan Walsh with NRECA, we really owe him a big thanks for opening that opportunity to us. But it is the international network of these half a dozen or so facilities that do this. And so the ITC, we really want to position this as one of the premier test centers within the world. As you can see, some of the other members, Norway, Germany, Canada, the National Carbon Capture Center in Alabama, there's a new one in the UK. So this really is a unique facility. Another opportunity is World Coal Association. They do have some MOUs with some R&D entities. And so, what we want this thing to do is we want to have a strong pipeline of projects ready and lined up. So as soon as one leaves, the next is ready to come in. Next is ready to come in. And so as a part of that, we will need to get out there and talk about it. And, interest is strong and we're moving forward. I guess one thing that I do need to add is right here. The construction actually is ahead of schedule. The original plan was July 1st of 2017. The Basin guys are now shooting for May 1st of 2017. We're on budget, and actually we might be a little bit under budget as they kind of look through some things. Some of the engineering and construction, they had some good ideas that they came up with. And so we're going to just continue to explore those things because any money that we can save on the budget is available to perhaps run the facility for an extra year or, do some sort of do some creative things to get some additional research in there. So, like I said, we're moving forward. It's an exciting project to be a part of. I know the governor's excited. We're just getting rolling, or getting going on a little bit more of an official rollout, and we certainly will share in this project and share the information. But my contact information is here. The website is wyomingitc.org. Not live yet, but very soon, so stay tuned. And with that, I would be happy to answer any questions. None, perfect. Oh, yeah.
That was a great presentation. My name is Holly Kreka from Tri-State. And I just had a question. I'm relatively new to learning about the ITC, although I'm familiar with other test facilities. And I think one of the things that sets us apart, it was designed for CO2 utilization. But thinking about CCU technologies, some of them will need a purified stream. So I'm just wondering, after the X Prize vacates the facility, will you allow just carbon capture processes to be testing at this facility, or will there be a preferential pecking order for just CCU technologies?
I think, and this is part of the evolving process. Yesterday we had a pretty lengthy meeting with regards to how do we actually structure the entity to make some of these decisions. And in some capacity, there will be a technical advisory committee that will look at these different technologies. But the X Prize portion of it is, so out of the 20 megawatts, they'll use probably less than 3 megawatts in their 5 test bays. So there'll be 17 megawatts available in the large test bay. And really the technology for that is wide open.
Okay.
If it is just a truly capture sort of technology, it could be accommodated. If it's a utilization technology, I think this technical advisory committee will make those decisions as to the most ready technology to bring in.
And there might have to be some pairing of technologies, because CCU technologies might need that upstream purification.
Absolutely.
So,
Yep.
just something to think about.
Yeah.
I just wanted to add some color. I talked to folks with X Prize last week, and to this date, they have 850 notice of interest in the prize, which is like the biggest that they've ever had on any of their prizes. There's 108 teams that have submitted profiles, which are basically, here's our team, here's who we are, kind of their approach. They've had 5 teams sign up already, and they expect when their sign up is done, they'll have approximately 30 teams that are going to be actively engaged in it. So.
I need to get that data from you and add it. So.
Yep, we'll get it to you.
Okay.
Yep.
Anyone else? Tim, and then go back to.
Who vets the team?
Work in progress. I think the thought is the individual stakeholders, so we've got the utilities who are part of this working group, NRC, ECA, Tri-State, those sort of folks. In-house, they all have folks who are part of this, and so this really is a fluid sort of work in progress. And when you do have funding partners, they all have expectations of what they're wanting, and so we're working through it.
Yeah, and then on the X Prize side, they have you could go on their website, they have sort of the criteria, but they have a team of scientists and a review committee. They have a pretty structured process that actually manages the competition and down selects the competitors to get to the final 5.
No, all 20 megawatts will be a flue gas stream. So it'll be 3 megawatts of that 20 megawatts will go to the X Prize competition bays, and then 17 of that will be diverted over to the large test bay.
All of the tenants have to figure out their own capture technology.
Correct. I mean, really what we're providing is a flue gas stream, a pipe. You hook into here, we'll provide you flue gas. There'll be utility hookups, but it's a gravel pad. So everything else is theirs. They'll have to construct or haul in. Okay. Well, thank you very much.